The chill of autumn had settled over the town of Maplewood, wrapping its streets in a cloak of vibrant leaves that crunched underfoot. It was the time of year when the days grew shorter and shadows lengthened, stretching across sidewalks and seeping into the corners of homes. For many, it was a season of joy, of pumpkin spice lattes and Halloween preparations, but for Jenna, it heralded the return of something far more sinister. Jenna had always been a bit of an outsider. Growing up, she preferred the company of books and her sketch pad to that of her peers. It was during her freshman year of high school that she met Sarah, a girl whose vibrant personality and infectious laugh drew Jenna in like a moth to a flame. Sarah was everything Jenna wasn't: bold, adventurous, and unapologetically herself. They became inseparable, sharing secrets and dreams. And for the first time, Jenna felt like she truly belonged. But as the months passed, Jenna began to notice a shift in Sarah. It started subtly, a misplaced word here, a strange look there, but soon it escalated. Sarah began to speak of dark things. She would share unsettling stories about her family's history, tales of curses and hauntings, and Jenna found herself captivated yet unnerved. The stories felt too real, too close to home, and Jenna often caught herself glancing over her shoulder, half expecting to see something lurking just out of sight. One evening, as they sat in Sarah's dimly lit room surrounded by flickering candles, Sarah pulled out an old book she claimed was her grandmother's. The cover was tattered, the pages yellowed, and as Sarah read aloud, the air thickened with an unnameable tension. The story was about a girl who had been cursed by a jealous friend, doomed to wander the earth seeking revenge. Jenna felt a chill creep down her spine. It's just a story, she told herself, but the way Sarah's eyes glinted in the candlelight made her question that notion. As the weeks rolled on, Jenna noticed more oddities. Sarah began to change her appearance, favoring dark clothing and heavy eyeliner that framed her piercing green eyes. She started to talk to people Jenna couldn't see, whispering secrets in the night that sent shivers down Jenna's spine. It's just my imagination, Jenna reassured herself, but deep down, a seed of fear had planted itself in her heart. Halloween approached, and the excitement in the air was palpable. Jenna and Sarah planned to attend a local haunted house, a popular attraction that promised thrills and chills. But as the night drew near, Sarah became increasingly withdrawn, her laughter replaced by an unsettling silence. The day before Halloween, Jenna called to confirm their plans, but Sarah didn't answer. Instead, Jenna received a text that read, "I can't go. I have something else to do." Worry gnawed at Jenna, but she decided to go to the haunted house alone. As she walked through the creaking doors, the scent of stale popcorn and artificial fog washed over her. The darkness wrapped around her like a shroud, and every scare made her heart race. But as she turned a corner, she froze. There, lurking in the shadows, was Sarah. Her hair hung limply around her face, and her eyes were wide, unblinking. "Sarah!" Jenna exclaimed, relief flooding her. But as she approached, Sarah raised a finger to her lips, silencing Jenna. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the screams echoing through the haunted house. "It's not what it seems." Confusion washed over Jenna. "What do you mean?" But before Sarah could respond, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. Jenna felt a cold hand grip her wrist, and panic surged through her. "Sarah!" she shouted, but the grip tightened, pulling her deeper into the shadows. The world around her twisted and turned, and Jenna felt as if she was being pulled into a nightmare. The air grew thick, suffocating her, and she stumbled, losing her footing. Just when she thought she would be swallowed whole, the lights flickered back on, and she found herself alone in a dimly lit corridor. Heart racing, she turned to run, but as she reached the exit, she gasped. Sarah stood there, her face pale and drawn, her eyes reflecting a darkness that sent a jolt of fear through Jenna. "You need to leave," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "You don't understand what's happening." "What are you talking about?" Jenna cried, desperation clawing at her throat. "What's going on?" But before Sarah could answer, a loud crash echoed through the haunted house, and the ground shook beneath them. Jenna grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her toward the exit, but Sarah resisted, her eyes wild with fear. "You can't go," she hissed. You have to stay with me." The urgency in Sarah's voice sent a shiver down Jenna's spine. "I don't want to stay," she shouted, pulling away. "You're scaring me." In that moment, a realization struck Jenna like a bolt of lightning. The stories, the whispers, the darkness, Sarah, had become the very thing she had once feared. "You're not my friend anymore," Jenna said, her voice trembling but resolute. As if struck, Sarah stepped back, her expression shifting from anger to sorrow. "You don't understand," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I tried to protect you." With that, she turned and fled into the shadows, leaving Jenna standing alone, heart pounding in her chest. Jenna stumbled out of the haunted house, gasping for breath. The cool night air hit her like a wave, but it did little to calm the storm brewing inside her. She knew she had to confront Sarah to understand what had happened to her friend, but as she walked home through the dimly lit streets, dread coiled in her stomach. The following days were filled with uncertainty. Jenna tried reaching out to Sarah, but her calls went unanswered, and her texts were met with silence. A sense of foreboding hung over her, and she felt like a puppet with its strings cut, lost, and adrift. The once vibrant colors of autumn faded into a dull gray, and every rustle of leaves seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't decipher. One evening, as she sat on her bed, Jenna heard a soft knock at her window. Her heart raced as she turned to see Sarah standing outside, her face illuminated by the pale moonlight. Jenna rushed to open the window, relief flooding her senses. "Sarah, I was so worried," she exclaimed. But as Sarah climbed through the window, Jenna noticed something unsettling. Her friend's eyes were hollow, and the darkness that had once danced within them was now a gaping void. "I need your help," Sarah said, her voice low and shaky. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "What do you mean?" Jenna asked, fear creeping into her voice. "I've been cursed," Sarah confessed, her gaze dropping to the floor. "The stories I told you, they're real. I didn't want to believe it, but I can feel it inside me. Something dark. It's taking over." Jenna's heart sank as she listened to Sarah's words. "How can I help you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to break the curse," Sarah said, her eyes pleading. "But it won't be easy. We have to confront the source. Where do we find it?" Jenna asked, her mind racing. "The book," Sarah replied, her voice trembling. "The one from my grandmother. It holds the key." With a sense of dread, Jenna nodded. "Let's do it." As they gathered their courage, the air around them grew heavy, almost suffocating. Jenna felt a chill run down her spine as they made their way to Sarah's house, the shadows seeming to stretch and twist around them. The once familiar streets of Maplewood felt foreign and menacing, as if the very town was holding its breath. When they arrived at Sarah's home, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Shadows danced along the walls as they climbed the stairs to her room. Sarah rummaged through her belongings, her fingers trembling as she pulled out the old book. It looked even more worn than before, the cover fraying at the edges. "Here it is," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. "We have to read the passage that explains how to break the curse." As they flipped through the pages, Jenna felt a sense of foreboding wash over her. The stories contained within were filled with darkness and despair, and as Sarah began to read aloud, the room grew colder. Jenna shivered, wrapping her arms around herself, trying to ward off the creeping chill. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a low growl echoed through the room. Jenna's heart raced as she glanced around, feeling the presence of something lurking just beyond their sight. "We have to hurry," she urged, her voice trembling. But as Sarah read on, her voice grew more frantic. "It says here that to break the curse, we must confront the spirit that haunts the bear. We must face what lies within." "What does that mean?" Jenna asked, panic rising in her chest. "It means I have to confront my fears," Sarah replied, her eyes wide with terror, "and you have to help me." Before Jenna could respond, the shadows in the room coalesced, forming a dark figure that loomed before them. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and a chilling voice echoed through the air. "You dare disturb my slumber?" Jenna's blood ran cold as she clutched Sarah's arm. "What do we do?" she whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. "Face it," Sarah shouted, her voice filled with a mix of fear and determination. "We have to confront it together." The figure lunged forward, and Jenna felt an icy grip around her throat. She gasped for breath, her vision blurring as darkness threatened to engulf her. But Sarah stood firm, her eyes blazing with defiance. "You have no power over us," she screamed, her voice ringing with conviction. With those words, a surge of energy pulsed through Jenna, and she felt warmth return to her body. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, drawing strength from Sarah's courage. Together, they stood their ground, facing the darkness that threatened to consume them. The figure shrieked, its form flickering as if caught in a storm. "You cannot escape your fate," it howled. But Sarah and Jenna pressed on, their voices rising in unison. "We will break the curse!" As they chanted the words from the book, the darkness around them began to dissipate. The figure writhed and twisted, its form unraveling like smoke in the wind. A blinding light filled the room, and Jenna felt a warmth enveloping them, pushing the shadows away. With one final scream, the figure shattered into a million pieces, dissolving into the air. Silence fell over the room, and the oppressive weight that had hung over them lifted. Jenna gasped, her heart racing as she turned to Sarah. "Did we do it?" she asked, breathless. Sarah's face was pale, but a faint smile crept onto her lips. "I think we did," she replied, her voice shaky but filled with relief. But as they stood there, a sudden realization washed over Jenna. "What if it comes back?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. "We'll be ready," Sarah said, determination shining in her eyes. "We faced it once, and we can do it again." In the days that followed, the darkness that had loomed over Sarah began to lift. She returned to her vibrant self, her laughter echoing through the halls of their school once more. Jenna felt a sense of relief wash over her, but a part of her remained vigilant, aware that darkness could return when least expected. The autumn leaves fell around them, swirling in the wind as they walked home together, their bond stronger than ever. They shared stories and dreams, but there was an unspoken understanding between them, a knowledge that the darkness was never far away. As Halloween approached again, Jenna found herself feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had learned to embrace the shadows, to confront her fears head on. And as she and Sarah prepared for the festivities, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The night of Halloween arrived, and the streets of Maplewood came alive with laughter and screams. Costumed children darted from house to house, their joy infectious. Jenna and Sarah joined the throng, their spirits lifted as they reveled in the magic of the night. But as they approached the haunted house once more, a chill ran down Jenna's spine. The memories of their previous encounter flooded back, and she glanced at Sarah, who seemed to sense her unease. "We'll be okay," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We're stronger now." With a deep breath, Jenna nodded, and they stepped inside. The familiar scent of popcorn and fog enveloped them, but this time, Jenna felt a sense of empowerment. They navigated through the dark corridors, laughter echoing around them, and as they reached the final room, a sense of foreboding washed over Jenna. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a figure emerged from the shadows. Jenna's heart raced, but she stood firm, her resolve unwavering. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice ringing with confidence. The figure paused, its eyes narrowing at them. "You think you can defeat me again?" it hissed, but Jenna felt Sarah's hand tighten around hers. Together, they faced the darkness, their bond unbreakable. "We are stronger together," they shouted in unison. And with that, the figure recoiled, its form dissipating into the air. As the light filled the room, Jenna felt a sense of triumph wash over her. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but she knew that the shadows would always linger, waiting for the right moment to creep back in. But with Sarah by her side, Jenna felt ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they could face the darkness, and their bond would guide them through the shadows, illuminating the path forward. As they stepped out into the cool night air, laughter and joy filled the streets, and Jenna knew that no matter how creepy the shadows became, they would always shine a light in the darkness together. The true scary stories of their journey had only just begun, and they were ready to embrace whatever came next. The autumn air was crisp, and leaves crunched underfoot as Sarah walked home from school. She had always loved this time of year, the colors, the chill, the promise of Halloween lurking just around the corner. But this year felt different. There was something unsettling about the way the shadows danced beneath the trees, and she found herself glancing over her shoulder more often than usual. Her best friend, Lily, had always been a source of comfort. They had been inseparable since kindergarten, sharing secrets, dreams, and the occasional ghost story. But recently, Lily had begun to change. It started with the small, thinks a strange obsession with the occult, late night text messages that didn't make sense, and a growing distance that made Sarah feel uneasy. One evening, as they sat on Sarah's bedroom floor, surrounded by old magazines and snacks, Lily brought out a weathered book she had found at a thrift shop. Its cover was tattered, and the pages were yellowed with age. "Look what I got," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "It's a book of spells and rituals." Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. "I don't know, Lily, that sounds kinda creepy." "Come on, it's just for fun. I mean, who really believes in this stuff?" Lily laughed, but there was an edge to her voice that made Sarah uneasy. They spent the evening flipping through the book, reading incantations, and looking at the bizarre illustrations. There was one spell that caught Sarah's eye, a simple one for friendship. But as Lily read it aloud, the atmosphere in the room shifted. A chill crept in, and Sarah felt goosebumps rise on her skin. "Let's do it," Lily exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "What's the worst that could happen?" With a mix of apprehension and excitement, Sarah agreed. They gathered candles and a few ingredients from the kitchen and set up a makeshift altar in the corner of the room. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. As Lily recited the words from the book, Sarah felt a strange energy fill the room. The air was thick with anticipation, and for a moment she felt as though they were teetering on the edge of something otherworldly. But then, with a sudden gust of wind, the candles flickered violently and went out, plunging them into darkness. "Did you feel that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Lily laughed again, but it was a hollow sound. "It's just the wind. Don't be such a baby." But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The next day at school, Lily seemed different. She was quieter, her eyes darting around the room as if she were searching for something. During lunch, she kept glancing at a group of older students who were known for their dark humor and fascination with the macabre. "Why are you staring at them?" Sarah asked, trying to sound casual. "Just curious," Lily replied, a strange smile creeping onto her lips. "They're into some really interesting stuff." As the days passed, Lily's behavior became increasingly erratic. She began wearing black clothing, her once vibrant personality fading into something darker. Sarah felt a growing sense of dread, but every time she tried to talk to Lily about it, she was met with dismissal and laughter. One Friday night, as Halloween approached, Sarah decided to confront her friend. "Lily, I'm worried about you. You've changed so much lately. It's like you're not even you anymore." Lily's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing. "You don't understand, Sarah. I'm discovering who I really am. You should try it sometime." That night, Sarah lay in bed, unable to sleep. The shadows in her room felt alive, and every creak of the house made her heart race. She picked up her phone and texted Lily, asking if they could talk. After a long pause, Lily replied with a single word: "Number." The following week, Sarah learned that Lily had started hanging out with a group of older students. They were known for their strange rituals and dark pranks. Sarah felt a sense of loss, as if her best friend had slipped away into a world she couldn't follow. One evening, Sarah was at home when she received a frantic call from Lily. "You have to come park! Now!" The urgency in her voice sent chills down Sarah's spine. She grabbed her jacket and rushed out the door, her heart pounding as she made her way to the park. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the deserted playground. When she arrived, she found Lily standing in a clearing, surrounded by the older students. They were chanting something, their voices low and rhythmic. As Sarah stepped closer, she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. "Lily," she called out, but her friend didn't respond. Instead, she seemed entranced, her eyes glazed over. The group was gathered around a makeshift altar, candles flickering ominously in the darkness. "What's going on?" Sarah demanded, her voice shaking. One of the older students turned to her, a smirk on his face. "We're just having a little fun, Sarah. You should join us." "Get away from her!" Sarah shouted, her fear transforming into anger. But as she stepped forward, she felt an invisible force push her back. Panic surged through her as she realized she couldn't get closer to Lily. "Lily, please! You have to come with me!" But Lily just stood there, a smile on her face that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "This is my new family, Sarah. You wouldn't understand." In that moment, Sarah felt something shift within her. It was as if the very ground beneath her feet had turned to ice. She turned and ran, the laughter of the group echoing behind her. The next few days were a blur of confusion and fear. Sarah tried to reach out to Lily, but her friend had completely cut her off. She felt like she was losing her mind, haunted by the memory of the night in the park. Then, one evening, Sarah received a text from an unknown number. "I know what you did." Her heart raced as she read the message. It was followed by a pictorial snapshot of her taken from the shadows, her face twisted in fear. Sarah's breath quickened, and she felt the walls closing in on her. She looked around her room, feeling like she was being watched. That night, she barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts of what had happened to Lily and the group she had joined. Desperate for answers, Sarah decided to confront the situation head-on. She did some research and discovered that the group was rumored to be involved in dark rituals that involved summoning spirits and making pacts. On Halloween night, she gathered her courage and went back to the park. The air was thick with fog, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the trees. As she approached the clearing, she saw the flickering lights of candles and heard the low murmur of voices. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the light. The group was gathered around a large circle, and in the center stood Lily, her expression blank and eerily serene. "Lily!" Sarah shouted, her voice echoing through the clearing. Lily turned slowly, her eyes dark and unfocused. "Sarah, you shouldn't have come here." "What are you doing?" Sarah pleaded. "This isn't you." But Lily just smiled, a twisted grin that sent chills down Sarah's spine. "I found my place, Sarah. You should leave before it's too late." As the group began to chant, Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. Shadows twisted and danced around them, and she could feel a cold presence creeping in. Desperate, she lunged forward, grabbing Lily's arm. "We have to go. This isn't right." But Lily pulled away, her voice suddenly cold. "You don't understand, Sarah. This is power." In that moment, something shifted in the air. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, towering over them. It was a grotesque apparition, its eyes glowing with malice. The group fell silent, fear washing over their faces as they realized they had summoned something beyond their control. "Run!" Sarah screamed, grabbing Lily's hand and pulling her toward the exit. But as they turned to flee, the figure reached out, its icy fingers grazing Sarah's arm. Pain shot through her body, and she stumbled, falling to the ground. "Lily, help me!" she cried, but Lily stood frozen, entranced by the dark presence. With every ounce of strength, Sarah pushed herself up and ran, the sound of the group's terrified screams echoing behind her. She didn't stop until she reached the safety of her home, locking the door and collapsing against it. For days, Sarah was haunted by nightmares. She could still hear the chanting, see the dark figure looming over her. She tried to reach out to Lily, but her friend was lost to her, consumed by the darkness. As Halloween faded into memory, Sarah found herself avoiding the park, the shadows too thick, the memories too painful. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her. One night, as she lay in bed, she received another message from the unknown number. "You can't escape what you've unleashed." Her heart raced as she stared at the screen, dread pooling in her stomach. She knew she had to confront her fears, to face whatever darkness had taken hold of Lily. With a determined heart, she returned to the park one last time. The air was thick with fog, and the moon hung low, casting an eerie glow over the clearing. As she stepped into the light, she felt a chill run down her spine. "Lily!" she called, her voice echoing through the trees, but there was no answer. Instead, she felt the darkness closing in around her, the shadows whispering secrets she couldn't understand. As she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of a figure standing in the shadows. Lily, her eyes dark and vacant. Sarah, she said, her voice barely a whisper, you shouldn't have come back. In that moment, Sarah realized that her friend was gone, lost to the darkness that had consumed her. The shadows swirled around them, and Sarah felt a sense of despair wash over her. But she refused to give in. I won't let you take me too, she shouted, the words echoing in the stillness. With every ounce of strength, she turned and ran, the darkness clawing at her heels. She didn't stop until she reached the safety of her home, slamming the door behind her. The days turned into weeks, and Sarah tried to reclaim her life. But the shadows lingered, whispering her name, reminding her of the friends she had lost. And every Halloween, as the leaves turned and the air grew crisp, she felt the darkness creeping back, a reminder of the bond that had once tied her to Lily and the shadows that now haunted her dreams. Though she no longer saw her friend, she knew that the darkness would always be there, lurking just beyond the edges of her mind, waiting for the moment when she might falter and fall back into its embrace. In the end, Sarah learned that some friendships run deeper than the surface, entwined with secrets that can bind or break. And as the years passed, she carried the weight of her choices, forever marked by the memory of a creepy friend and the darkness that had claimed her. The tale of Sarah and Lily serves as a chilling reminder. Sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that unfold in the shadows of our closest relationships, where the line between friendship and obsession blurs, and the darkness waits patiently for its chance to claim another soul. The autumn leaves crunched beneath my feet as I made my way down the narrow, winding path leading to my best friend Jake's house. The fading light of the evening sky cast an eerie glow over the neighborhood, the kind that made the shadows seem longer and more sinister. I had known Jake since kindergarten. We had been inseparable, sharing secrets and dreams as we grew up together. But lately, things had changed. Jake had become distant, lost in a world of his own, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. As I approached his front porch, I noticed that the lights inside were dimmed, casting a flickering glow that made the house look almost haunted. I hesitated for a moment, a sense of foreboding creeping over me. I pushed the thought aside and knocked on the door, the sound echoing in the stillness of the evening. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Jake's familiar face, but his expression was different thallow, as if a part of him was missing. Hey, you made it, he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I stepped inside, the air thick with an unsettling tension, and followed him into the living room. The place was cluttered, not the usual organized chaos I was used to, but a disarray that hinted at neglect. Old pizza boxes and empty soda cans littered the floor, and the curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the fading light. Sorry about the mess, Jake muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. I've been busy. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't press. Instead, I tried to lighten the mood. Want to watch a movie or something? Sure, he replied, his voice lacking enthusiasm. We settled on the couch, the flickering screen casting ghostly shadows across his face. As the movie played, I couldn't help but glance at him. He seemed distant, his eyes unfocused, as if he were somewhere else entirely. I felt a prickle of unease crawl up my spine. After the movie ended, I suggested we go for a walk to clear our heads. Jake nodded, and we stepped outside into the crisp night air. The streets were deserted, the only sounds being the rustling leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. As we walked, I tried to engage him in conversation, but he responded with short, clipped answers, his mind clearly elsewhere. Jake, is everything okay? I finally asked, unable to contain my concern any longer. He stopped walking, his gaze fixed on the ground. I don't know how to explain it, he said slowly. I've been having these thoughts, dark thoughts. It's like there's this voice in my head that won't shut up. My heart raced. What kind of thoughts? He hesitated, his face contorted in distress. I don't know, it's like I'm losing control. I see things, shadows that don't belong. They follow me. I felt a chill run down my spine. Shadows? What do you mean? Just shadows. They whisper things to me when I'm alone. They tell me to do things. His voice dropped to a whisper, and I could see the fear in his eyes. I don't want to listen, but it's hard. I tried to reassure him, but deep down I felt a growing sense of dread. You need to talk to someone, maybe a therapist or something. This isn't normal, Jake. He shook his head, his expression darkening. No one would understand. They think I'm crazy. The conversation hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. We walked in silence for a while, the weight of his confession pressing down on me. Obscured by the darkness, I squinted, trying to make out who it was, but when I blinked, it was gone. Did you see that? I asked, glancing at Jake. But he wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on the spot where the figure had stood. A look of terror etched across his face. Jake? I called, but he didn't respond. He was frozen, his breath coming in quick gasps. I grabbed his arm, shaking him gently. What's wrong? He blinked rapidly, as if trying to shake off a trance. I thought I saw it again, he stammered, his voice trembling. Saw what? I pressed, but he didn't answer. Instead, he turned and began to walk briskly away from the spot, pulling me along with him. Jake, wait. What did you see? It doesn't matter, he said, his voice strained. We need to go back. We hurried back to his house, and once inside, Jake slammed the door shut behind us, locking it with a trembling hand. I stood in the living room, still reeling from the fear that had gripped me. What's going on with you, man? I demanded, frustration bubbling to the surface. I told you. It's the shadows, he whispered, glancing nervously at the windows, as if expecting something to come crashing through. They're everywhere. I can't escape them. I felt a surge of anger mixed with concern. You can't just shut me out like this. We need to face this together. But Jake was already retreating into the dimly lit hallway, his back turned to me. You don't understand, he said softly, almost to himself. They're getting closer. I followed him, my heart pounding. Who's getting closer? What do you mean? He stopped suddenly, his shoulders tensing. The shadows. They want something from me. They want me to join them. Join them? I echoed, my voice rising in disbelief. Jake, this isn't real. You're just stressed out. You need help. He turned to me, his eyes wild and desperate. You don't know what it's like. You haven't seen what I've seen. I faltered, taken aback by the intensity of his gaze. Then show me, I said, my voice steadying. Let me help you. Whatever you're seeing, we can face it together. He shook his head, tears brimming in his eyes. You don't understand. If you see them, they'll come for you too. I took a step closer, reaching out to comfort him. I'm not afraid of shadows, Jake. But as I said it, a cold wind swept through the hallway, extinguishing the dim light. The room plunged into darkness, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Jake? I called out, my voice trembling. I can't let you see, he whispered, his voice sounding distant and hollow. You have to leave. Now. Panic surged through me. What are you talking about? I'm not going anywhere. Suddenly, I heard a low, menacing whisper echoing in the darkness. It was a cacophony of voices, murmuring unintelligible words that sent a chill through my bones. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. Jake, what is that? But he was staring into the darkness, his face twisted in fear. They're here, he said, his voice breaking. They've come for me. In that moment, I felt a presence behind me, something cold and malevolent. I turned to look, but there was nothing there, just the suffocating darkness pressing in on us. Jake, we need to get out of here, I shouted, my voice rising in panic. But he stood frozen as if entranced by the shadows. I can't leave them, he murmured. They'll take me if I try. Jake, please, I begged, reaching out to grab his arm. But as my fingers brushed against his skin, I felt an icy chill, and he jerked away from me, his expression shifting to one of terror. Get back, he screamed, and in that instant I saw a dark figure emerging from the shadows, its form twisting and writhing like smoke. It loomed over us, its presence suffocating. I felt a wave of despair wash over me, and I stumbled backward, desperately searching for an escape. Jake, run! I yelled, but he was still staring at the figure, his eyes wide with horror. The entity reached out a shadowy hand toward him, and in that moment, I knew I had to act. I lunged forward, grabbing Jake's arm and pulling him away from the darkness. We have to go, now. With every ounce of strength, I dragged him toward the front door, my heart pounding in my chest. As we burst through the door into the night, I felt a rush of cold air behind us, as if the shadows were reaching out to reclaim him. We ran down the street, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I glanced back, half expecting to see the figure chasing us, but there was nothing, just the empty street and the distant sound of rustling leaves. Jake, talk to me. Are you okay? He stumbled beside me, his eyes darting around as if searching for something unseen. I don't know, he gasped, his face pale. I can still hear them, whispering. Focus on me, I urged, gripping his shoulder. We're gonna get through this. Just keep running. We fled into the night, the shadows lurking just out of sight. As we reached the edge of the neighborhood, I finally dared to look back. The street was empty, the house shrouded in darkness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we hadn't escaped entirely. We found refuge in a nearby park, the moon casting a silver glow over the grass. We collapsed onto a bench, panting and shaking. What just happened? I murmured, still trying to process the surreal events of the evening. I don't know, Jake replied, his voice trembling. I thought I could handle it, but they're stronger than I thought. They want me to join them, to give in. Jake, you can't let them win, I said firmly. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone in this. But he looked away, his expression haunted. What if they're right? What if I'm meant to be with them? Don't say that, I exclaimed, grabbing his arm. You're my best friend. We have our whole lives ahead of us. You can't give up. He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Jake, the one who laughed and dreamed. I don't know how to fight this, he whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks. What if they come for you next? I shook my head, determination filling me. They won't. I won't let them. We're going to get you help. We'll figure this out, I promise. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the darkness, illuminating the park. I felt a sense of hope wash over me, but the shadows still lingered at the edges of my mind. I knew that the battle was far from over. Over the next few weeks, I encouraged Jake to seek help. He reluctantly agreed, and we started attending therapy sessions together. It was a long, arduous process, filled with tears and fears. But slowly, he began to find his way back. The shadows still whispered to him, but he learned to confront them, to challenge their hold on him. One evening, as we sat in his living room, the lights dimmed, but the atmosphere felt lighter. Thank you for not giving up on me, Jake said, a genuine smile breaking through the darkness that had once consumed him. I'd do it 1,000 times over, I replied, feeling a warmth in my heart. You're stronger than you think. But as the days turned into weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were still lurking, waiting for an opportunity to strike. I began to notice strange occurrences around Jake, objects moving inexplicably, whispers echoing in the silence. I worried that perhaps he hadn't fully escaped their grasp. One night, I received a frantic call from him. They're back, he said, his voice trembling. I can hear them in my room. They won't leave me alone. My heart raced as I rushed over to his house. When I arrived, the air felt thick with an oppressive energy. I found Jake sitting on his bed, his face pale and drawn. They're here. I can feel them, he whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Jake, we can face this together, I said, trying to sound brave. Let's turn on the lights and get through this. But as I flicked the switch, the lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. My heart sank as I heard the whispers growing louder, echoing around us. Jake, stay close to me, I shouted, but he was already backing away, his eyes darting around the room. Get away from me, he screamed, his voice filled with terror. They want me.